I'm Victor Kostrup, and we are part of the Mission Matters. I'm very honored to be part of the Mission Matters, and my podcast call is Mentors by Design. And I have a great guest with me today. You're the mentor yourself, is Alexander Negrov. And I'm very fascinated about other people, what they do, why they do what they do. And I will give you a chance to tell us about your background and why you do what you do. And Alexander Negrov is part of the Hodos Institute.
Yes. Hello. Hello. And thank you, Victor, for inviting me.
Oh, great.
Well, you want me to briefly tell about myself?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, a number of years ago, I founded Hodos Institute, which is an organization of applied leadership research. We're focusing our research efforts to discover what works and what doesn't work in the area of leadership formation among youth and teenagers. We're also busy with consulting various organizations, advancing ethical, effective, and spiritual leadership in different sectors, from business to nonprofits, churches, educational institutions. And one of the most exciting and recent project that we're busy with is assisting establishing a Ukrainian Leadership Center in Kyiv, Ukraine.
I know you just got back from Ukraine, right?
Yes, several weeks ago. And I'm planning to return back in September.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about that trip as well?
Well, Ukraine is experiencing a tragedy of war.
Were you like have a certain expectation before you went to Ukraine from here, from US? And then as you go to Ukraine, do you see it differently than what we are able to establish our picture from here, from US, for example?
No, probably not, because the war in Ukraine is in a state of being last 8 years in a huge escalation. Full-scale invasion of Russians to Ukraine happened on 24th of February this year. And from the day one of this full-scale escalation, I've been in contact with many Ukrainians, including my staff. So I've been very well informed. But one thing is to be informed, another thing is to feel it and be with people and see it. But
Right.
I had no experience of sitting with people.
No previous experience.
Yes, no previous experience of sitting with people that would probably tell me how in the last number of weeks they will evacuate people from war zone, or they will bring the dead bodies back to the villages. So that type of thing was a new experience of just being there, seeing with my eyes the destroyed buildings, bridges, or visiting friends that lost their houses or lost their beloved ones. So that was just a different experience.
Mm-hmm. So I was just curious. So, for example, you go there. Obviously, you have some friendship that you develop over the years with people who are in Ukraine, and so, like, when you have a conversation, so you are talking about, obviously, at first, maybe first half an hour, they'll give you like a heads up. What is the last news in the war zone? And then do you just go back and you just start laughing? Do you guys share the stories, just like how beautiful the life is, or the thing so bad that people don't even share that type of life experience anymore?
Well, it depends. I cannot give any details of my private conversations, of course, but I was encouraged by the spirit of many Ukrainians that I met with, organization leaders, entrepreneurs, church pastors, just regular citizens. While they would share the heaviness of their spirit, They also communicated the hope, faith, their resilience, spirit of resilience is very strong. And I think sometimes people even able and capable to be humorous, but in
That's
a deep,
nice.
not in a sarcastic way, but in a deep, humorous way of laughing.
Otherwise, you can go crazy
Of
if you don't
course,
do
of
that.
course,
Yeah.
of course. But at the same time, the conversations are not shallow; they're deep.
Oh,
They're deep.
that's what I was getting to. Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
I've talked to one person that he said there were a number of foreign visitors to Ukraine, and they will come and basically kind of spreading around envelopes, giving envelopes with financial help. But the point was, which was very well accepted and appreciated, but this friend of mine said to one of the visitors, he said, "Do you have anything else besides money?
Interesting.
What do you have?" And that person was not able to answer because he came to Ukraine only with money. There's nothing. And people are looking for meaningful friendship, meaningful solidarity, a compassion, empathy, but on a deep level,
Wow, that's good. That's good.
not just to bring money, because for many, it's an
So they get
opportunity.
offended if this is just on the surface.
Yeah,
In the,
for many, it's like a bringing money, take a picture, and send back. Here I am.
that's right.
I served Ukrainians.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're talking about people's behavior, and one of the topics which I thought it would be great to talk to you about, because you teach a lot, and I know you speak at a lot of big conferences, and you lead a lot of people. It's about the toxic leadership, toxic workplace. One of the ways that I remember the very first time that I interacted with a toxic leadership, it was back when I was a teenager myself, and I was back in Soviet Union, which I was in Ukraine. I was about like 16, 17, was probably like almost 17, and my friend already had a job. I wasn't employed. I didn't have any previous experience. All I was looking at this world of possibilities and workplace with like zero knowledge. I didn't know what to expect. And one day, a friend of mine, he was the driver of a big boss, and he took me as a like a companion. I was like driving with him, so he doesn't have to be alone for like at least half a day, and then he returns back to the station, and I didn't realize until what I heard. It was just he was late by 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. But the bullying, the screaming of this boss that he receives, it was just like nothing that I heard of before. And when I stood, even though this criticism and this bullying, it wasn't addressed at me, but I felt it to my last bone, and I kind of like thought, "Wow, how is it even possible to work in this atmosphere?" And then I late after that, I would ask my friend, "Is this is normal?" And he would say, "Yeah, welcome to the world, my friend. This is normal." And then I figured, well, this is how they show the leadership. Because if the person, in other words, if it's not driven by fear, in other words, you could be late again. But that boss, that leadership, want to show you the style of stick and carrot. So this is the way to make sure that you will follow the standards which is before you. So that's one experience. Then I go to US, and I'm moving to US. Fortunately, I was able to move to US, and now I have a different expectation. I'm thinking in this country, this is where the justice is, and people do care for people. And as I was employed in working for one of the companies, I noticed that anytime I try to please my management, they would still find a way to criticize me. And then one day, as I'm sitting doing a job, and I decided I will be. That was like a place where was a screen printing shop, and my job was there was a dryer, and the products was coming from a dryer with a very slow speed. And my job was to collect the products, which is at that time was hats, and my job was to put them in a box. And but because it was so slow, I decided I will sit down and collect this from the sitting position. So my manager comes to me and with a raising voice, almost like screams at me and says, "You have to stand up and doing this job by standing." So as I raise and standing on my feet, I try to defend myself, kind of like, look, this is the reason why I sit down. It wasn't like I don't want to work or that will affect the quality of my work. No, it was just basically to make sure that I would show you consistency throughout 8 hours. But if I will be tired right now and then lacking the energy the rest of the day, and that's literally how I thought. That was my motivation. He left 10 minutes later. He comes to me, and now he just like don't care who you are, don't care about your arguments. And there was like people around, and he just want to make it was basically, you would see that he want to make an example of me, like, you're nobody, you're nobody, and if I tell you something, you have to follow. So he is just like a general will tell his soldier, get up, you have to do this by standing. So as I stood up, I received the revelation. It was just something that I it's not like every morning or every once in a while, like every month I will receive the revelation. This was like second time in my life. It was only 3 times in my life where I received this revelation. And I get this revelation that I see myself, I see a vision that I will be opening the business. So the motivation to open the business, it was in the fact that I want to run away from a toxic leadership. And I had the vision with the hope that it is possible to build the model without the stick and carrot, based on the qualities of the people of respect, being sincere, not hypocrite, and show people that you truly care. Because I've been in the shoes of those people who actually work on the other side. By receiving this kind of like invitation from heaven, that's how I see it. 6 months later, I already had the business, and I've been already employing people, and that's how it's all started for me. Now, taking years, the business is already for 28 years. And yes, we were tested many times. And there was temptation to actually, maybe the world is right. Maybe the model, the reason they do this, because this is the only model it works, based on fear. Stick and carrot. The other models doesn't work, because every time you would leave the place, and if there is not a presence of the boss, which is in this case it was my presence, they don't work as much effective as they would work while you are there. Soon as you left, they show the lack of quality, the lack of presence, and then they just don't do what they're supposed to do. In other words, that's what I'm saying. So I had the temptation to stop wherever I was doing, but I'm glad I did not give up, and I kept that vision that I received from the beginning, to respect people, to truly care for the person. And then later we built up a team of leadership, and then from that point we grew to a larger company, and then we grew to a much larger company, to international global company. But our leadership is based on the qualities that we work as a team without stick and carrot. So in other words, it is possible. And that manager that I was giving you an example, about 7 years ago, maybe that was like more than 7 years ago, that was like 9 years ago, I'm sitting in my office, and I somebody knocked in my door. I opened the door and I could not believe it. That was Jeff, who was that manager, who was telling me, stand up. And you have to do this job by standing. As he comes to my office, we sit down. At first, we have regular conversation. He's telling me how he's so impressed by the company that we built, and he heard so much about me and myself and in our leadership. And then he tells me, the reason I'm here because I'm looking for a job, Victor. So, and then possibly there is a space for me. Would you hire me? And knowing the qualities of the manager, what he was, I thought, well, from that position, if I were just only to compare based on the qualities, simply comparing the qualities of the management, his skills, in other words, how much talent he has more than the person who actually fills this position, I knew he is better. So I tell Jeff, look, if I compare the skills, you definitely overweight the person that's actually filling this position. But I said I would never do this because I truly care for that person. I care for his family. We're the team, and I would never do that because I truly, truly care for this person. First time in my life, I see a adult person, a man. He's like, because at that time he was obviously much older than the time I left that company. So obviously, for the reason he became much older, they probably simply replace him with much younger guy, more energetic, and that's why he's looking for a job. He was crying right on in front of me, and all he said, Victor, all my life I wish that somebody would tell that about me. That somebody would tell that about me. So I shake his hand and I said, Jeff, can I shake your hand? I want to thank you that you give me a kick to my ass, because if it wasn't for you, I would not be here right now, sitting in this chair, and you are sitting in that chair right now asking me for a job. It was thanks to you that I got this position. But regardless, I cannot offer you this job, but I wish you well. When he left, that was just like somebody emphasized how much people do care, that they're part of this business, that we are together, that they share those values, that they share the vision, that you are the true team, but not somebody who's taking advantage of them. So with that, I want to start. This is my kind of like introduction to this topic of toxic leadership, and I know you're like an expert. You speak a lot about that. What can you tell us about different styles and why people behave this way when we see with our own eyes, and we all want to be on the other side, where people do care about us? Why do you think that?
When you talk about any subject, it's so important to give a definition of what it means. Toxic leadership. And I've been very much influenced on this topic by two excellent books. And I met the authors of both books, Barbara Kellerman. I met with her during one of the conferences of International Leadership Association. She is working and teaching at Harvard University as a researcher. She has written a number of good books. One of her books is on bad leadership. And bad leadership is non-effective and unethical. Some people would say, well, a great leader because he was effective in war or he made lots of money. But the way if you analyze, was it ethical? No, it was unethical, but effective. Well, for a good leadership, it has to be both ethical and effective. A bad leadership,
Right.
You take one of those with mark minus, it's not effective, so it's bad, or it's unethical, it's also bad. Second author that influenced me, and she is a member of advisory board for Hodos Institute, Professor Jean Lipman Blumen. She holds a Peter Drucker professorship at Claremont University, very respected scholar. She has written one of the most influential books in this area on this topic, Allure of Toxic Leaders, why some followers, they
Allured.
allure, so they wanted to follow toxic leaders. So basically, toxic leadership is a process by which leaders intentionally or non-intentionally inflict serious enduring harm on their followers or organization. So they basically, like toxin, they infect some of their qualities or incompetence into the followers or into organization. And basically, you could divide this whole topic into three sections, talking about behaviors of toxic leaders, also personal qualities of toxic leaders.
So let's talk about the behaviors of the toxic leadership.
Toxic leaders, they basically violate basic human rights of their followers, the right to have opinion. For example, they would say, well, if I will need your opinion, I will give it to you.
I would ask you. In other words, if I was interested in your opinion, I would ask you. But obviously, if I didn't, then that means I don't care. You just simply have to follow the orders.
Toxic leaders playing to the fears and needs of their followers. For example, well, you might lose job if you will not obey me. You might lose other privileges, or you might lose
the promotion,
possibility for promotion, etc. And basically, by manipulating the basic fears of that, or sometimes the employees or followers so ambitious, so you basically know that this person has no guts, has no brain, has no skills to move forward, but you play with it by saying, well, you're doing very well. If you be loyal with me, we will make this organization great. You will earn lots of money. So you basically close eyes on his mediocrity by using the weaknesses of that person, but playing with ambitions. You mentioned about that example. Toxic leaders build totalitarian atmosphere and organization.
Right. So like you said, so the other people opinions are not welcome. Or if you want to, especially if you come with it from a team as a team player, and you say, well, I don't agree exactly. Can I offer you kind of like my arguments? That would be probably on the offensive. The boss would get very upset and offended that somebody would try to criticize him.
Toxic leadership within organization might give favoritism to one group of people, and basically
the question is, why would they give the favoritism? Why?
To set up kind of a disagreement and set one group against other, and then everyone fights, and the leader comes to the room and said, okay, I will save your situation. So he talks to one group and another, and everyone understand that he is the person we need, because without him we will kill one another.
That's a great example. That is a great example.
Basically, it's like a game. Prefer one group, but then you also talk behind the scenes with another group, and everyone hates one another, but only you could solve the problem. And
I'm going to give you an example. One time when we were, when we were expanding, and at first we had a big office in Seattle, and then we were expanding, and we were building the office in Dallas, Texas, and then we're expanding and building the satellite office in Cleveland, Ohio. So obviously, that group of people from Dallas, Texas, they grew to a large company on their own, kind of like a franchise. Same thing happened in Ohio as well. And then I received a phone call from one of the leaders in Texas, and she said, Victor, I have a lot of directors, that they demand that it's us who comes to their events, because they say that we are much, much better than the local company in Ohio. So I had to make a decision at that time whether I would embrace and welcome competition this way. That's what you were trying to say. So it would be on the short term, it would be in my interest to put them against one another, where they compete with one another, and obviously when they compete, in order to compete, so they would criticize the other party, they would tell other things to make them look bad in my own eyes, just to make them more significant. You know what I'm saying? So, in short, you would think, well, if as long as they can compete, and other people will also try to raise their bar, so it's good for the business. But it's good only on the short term, because before you know it, you will have a toxic workplace, because that will spread around, and that would go from the top, and that would go basically to the whole team, and the whole team will be in a position where I don't care about you. As long as I have this job, anything is possible. Like you said, ethically, I don't care, as long as we feel more significant. Instead, what I said was, I said, Mary, think about like this is a family. Think about like this is your own sister. If that was your own sister, for example, if that was your sister, and you had this same call from a director who would tell you those things, how would you behave differently? Would you behave differently, first of all? And she said, probably yes. So you would try to help them to raise their bar, right? So in a right perspective, you would try to help them to raise their bar, and then once you help them and now they feel significant, obviously they see that you care for them. There is a true friendship that they would want to pay back with the same favor. They would want to also try to help you, but there will be, so in other words, on the long term, business still will benefit a lot more if they work together, not against one another, but actually together for the same goals. And in a way that would make company more significant, not one person more significant, but that would make the company more significant, and therefore everybody will get their praise and benefits with money and promotion as well.
Your illustration is good, because basically the business activities in our companies, day by day, allow us either to promote unhealthy atmosphere, or to basically evaluate and say this is not the way to go. And toxic behavior of leaders, sometimes treating employees well, but at the same time demanding them unconditional loyalty. And
Right.
then when you treat them well, pay them well, do everything for them, and ask them loyalty in a toxic heart, in a toxic mind of that person, then you could ask something unlawful. You
Right.
could ask them something unethical. I have example company that I consulted. The accountant was responsible to his boss, and the boss said, when you do this report to our stakeholders, do not mention everything. You don't need to put so detailed. Don't put this information in the report. And so the guy agreed, but then he returns back to his office accountant, and he said, you know what? I cannot do that. He said, why? Well, because if you allow me here not to cover, not to inform in a total, then I might develop a habit.
Wow, that's a good one.
I could develop a habit of tell half truth and then I might even report to you, but not disclose all the information.
Right,
And
right. So
said, no, 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 no. He said, when you write report to me, you have to tell me everything.
mhm.
But when to stakeholders, you might give like 75%, but that doesn't work. So toxins either destroy you, or basically, if you have kind of uncover where the problem, you could have a more healing process.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think the our culture, because of that, is either benefits from a right culture, but from a toxic leadership, we all have consequences, and one of those consequences is exactly the lack of trust. That's one of them. Just like, for example, if this gentleman was to go ahead and pursue with not disclose everything, and then that would create the habits, and so everybody would be in the defensive. Everybody would have doubts whether I can trust you or not, knowing how you did once. So where is it is any guarantees that later you would do differently towards me? It would be the same. So we have a lack of trust, just like we're in a business of we sell event merchandise on site at the sporting events, and then from a gross sale we pay commission to the local organization or local organizer committee. And at some point they ask very popular question: how can I trust you? Because there is, like, for example, doubts whether you will pay exactly what you promised to pay. Like, for if you said you're going to pay 10%, would that be 10% or would that be 5%? You never know, because we would have to trust you. So one of the arguments, knowing that culture is being affected, I would tell them, look, if I was a small company, if this was like a truly mom and pop's operation, and so my son goes to your event, my wife, she works in the printing department, and then my daughter works in the accounting department, then yeah, within the family, within a few people, I could tell, well, how about we cheat? How about we underpay here? And as you go to the event, because he would be the salesperson, you underreport. That at least realistic if you think that. But if I have thousands of employees, so literally I would have to tell each of them, you have to underreport, you have to do this. By doing so, I would only make disadvantage to myself, because now I will promote lie, cheat, steal. You're welcome to do that, and that would only be disadvantage to me. So it's kind of like makes sense to those people, but like in reality, I just want to emphasize is the right culture. We promote trust. When there is a toxic culture, then there is a lack of trust. If you could add to that.
well, of course, when there's a lack of integrity, and for example, the top leadership or mid-level management level shows a lack of integrity, and yet employees receive salary and they're good, you never know how the lack of integrity could spread, and then somebody steals the secret of companies or whatever, or technology, and then you lose the money. So basically, one time I've been at a seminar, and the coach that was doing the seminar was asked by people if business is possible to do honestly. He said, absolutely. You will not earn as much as you will
Wow.
as you could do without being dishonest. You could earn more. So you have to know that honest business, well, probably you earn less, but yet you could sleep well. So toxic leadership in many organizations starts with a big ego and ambitions of leaders in the roles of management. When, because of their goals to earn, because of their personal goals in a career, they started to pursue some of the organizational goals without paying attention to the needs and well-being of people.
Mm-hmm.
We talked briefly before we recorded this about this massive resignation
Right.
culture. And as you said correctly, one of the main reasons for people leaving jobs, not because they hate jobs or they do not need money any longer, but because they are free people and they can choose other alternatives how to spend their days and lives, but they don't want to stay in a company as soon as they see the toxic workplace culture.
That's right. That's right.
So you shared that with me, your observation, so you could probably add to that.
Yeah. No, that's when I discovered that, when I read that, I was just like almost like screaming. Is this is like a revolution? Because if you think about that, people if driven by fear, we just passed by pandemic. Usually, if you're driven by fear, you would hold to wherever job you had only because you're afraid who's going to pay my bills. But people are sick and tired of this, of lack of integrity. People are sick and tired when they play in games, when they show how much they care, but truly they don't care. They only use you, and you really they don't care about you, who you are, and all it's all about money. But when you mention where whoever you were quoting just a little while ago, when the person actually says, well, as far as the profit goes, you would make more if you if you have this toxic leadership. I would have to disagree with that, because yes, on the short term you can make more, but if we truly show people how much we care for them, that there is no team without them, and they are not replaceable only because he has criticized me, or he has a different opinion, or he looks different, or she looks different than me. We truly care if each person has so much skills, so much potential. So even though I could not necessarily hate the job, I might have passion for this job, but still I have a decision to make. Every day I come to work for you, I have a decision to make whether I'm going to give myself to 50% of my potential, or whether I will give you 100% of my potential. I believe if the people see the environment where there is an integrity, and you truly care for me, I believe you would see at least 80% of the potential people will leave on the table. But if it's an opposite, and if this is a toxic leadership, yes, they would give you wherever labor they should give you, but they would never give their heart. They would never give their soul. They would never give 100%. Maybe you will be lucky if you get a 50% of their potential. So on the long term, it's actually, you would make a lot more if you have a culture, the trust and care in the relationship.
Sure, of course. Somebody said that honesty is good for all. So it's but toxic leadership is a big topic. Still, lots of research is done. We uncover that sometimes toxic leadership starts with followers, because dishonest people, arrogant people, people that would like to have greatness and unethical, they choose to follow those type of people. They're happy they will never become a whistleblowers. They would say, as long as I receive my paycheck, I don't care.
Right. Right.
And honestly, in a political leadership, anyone who promises me greatness, well, that's the person I will follow, because I would like to be great. In a criminal groups, anyone who suppresses others, I would like to be loyal to that criminal person, because if they afraid him and I belong to his gang, then they afraid me. So it's all about values of people.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
negative values. It's
Yeah,
all
I
about
think that's
ethical
right.
moral
That's
code.
right. That's right. It's about the values of people. You're right. Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. Unfortunately, our time is already come to the end of the program. So I would ask you this last question, and with that, we can close this topic. What advice would you give for those who work in toxic culture?
I would like to tell people that they shouldn't do nothing. They should do something. Well, it's in different situations, but they should do something, at least to raise awareness that this, in the long run, toxic behavior or toxic qualities of their leaders will harm a company and people. Build a coalition, start communication. If that successful, maybe you could become a person who saved the situation. But
Hmm.
sometimes you have to leave. Leave.
So, live that could be not a bad option.
Not a bad option, because at the end, if you don't want to get toxic yourself, you don't want to agree with the toxic atmosphere, you do not want to become like people you associated with, and you don't want to carry on the reputation, but maybe suggest a healthy feedback environment. Many companies introduce 360 feedback when everyone does self evaluation, then he hears from others, and that helps to find out what are the toxic elements exist, where the roots,
Right.
and maybe fix in time. So, but don't stay and do nothing. Raise awareness.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Alexandra, and we wish you well in your next trip as you go to Ukraine. And I know you have a large team to lead by. So I just want to say thank you and good luck. God
Yeah,
bless you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye bye.
bye bye.